Good afternoon. This tutorial is going to help with assignment 7.2 for special right triangles. Go ahead, if you don't have your notes, and take a screenshot of these steps for solving special right triangles. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this. And then go ahead and take a screenshot of this page or part right down here so that you can simplify a radical. And then I want you to take a screenshot of the back of this chart right there. Okay. Actually, I'll make this a little bit bigger. Ooh, a little big. Okay, so go ahead and take a screenshot of that, okay, because that's what you're going to need to solve these problems in case you don't have the worksheets from today. So what I want you to do, let's go ahead and turn back. Now, the first step in our problem-solving strategy in general is to read the problem and be sure you understand exactly what the problem's asking. So our instructions tell us that what we're doing is solving for the given variable and to keep our answer in radical form. So what this means is that we're simply going we're just going to simplify the radical, and we're not going to solve it in a calculator, as we've been doing the whole time so far. So next we need to identify the given information and then recall any prior knowledge for each of these problems. And what I'm going to do is just give you a little bit of help for each of these. You only have to do the first 5. Hopefully you saw that in the message I sent out. So let's look at number 1. So you should see that we've got two different triangles here, one up top, one at the bottom. And this one's going to be a 45-45. We know that because this is a 45. So what I want you to do is go ahead and write a 45 here. And then we know this is going to be a 30-60 because of this 30 there. Write a 60 right there. Okay? So the first thing we do, let me make this a little bit bigger, is label our triangles. Now I want you to go ahead and label the hypotenuse. Now in this case, the hypotenuse is going to be the same line for both triangles, but it's not always going to be like that. So when you label the sides, label the inside of the triangle. What I mean by that is go ahead and write H right there. So that's the hypotenuse of this 45-45. That's going to be a leg and a leg. And then down here, this is going to be the short side because it's across from the 30-degree angle. So that's going to be short and that's going to be long. Okay. The only value that we have is this leg over here, so that means we're going to have to solve this first. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to be finding the hypotenuse, and then we're going to be using the hypotenuse, because it's going to be, like I said, the same value for both because they share the side, to then find the short side, and then using the short side to find the long side. Now, again, you're going to be referring to this, chart, so I'm going to be pulling it over now and then. So, so we are given, it's a 45-45, and we are given a leg, and we need to find the other leg. So hopefully you know this by now, but the legs are going to be the same if you don't have that down yet. So we look and we say, okay, 45-45, we're given a leg, solving for a leg, so that means they're equal, okay? So that means x is going to be 14 radical 2. Okay. And go ahead and fill these in also as you do it like that. Okay, and then now we need to find the hypotenuse. So we're given a leg, finding the hypotenuse on a 45-45. Given a leg, finding the hypotenuse, so we're going to multiply by radical 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our answer that we got right here. So we get 14 radical 2 times radical 2. And remember, when we multiply these together, radical 2 times radical 2 is going to be 2. So we've got 14 times 2. 14 times 2 is going to be 28. Okay, so 28 is going to be right here. So that's not an answer, but we're going to use 28 to find the short side and the long side. So the hypotenuse is 28. For both triangles. So now, remember, we have to go off of the short side. So we're going to work this way because there's no relationship between these two right there. So now we're in a 30-60-90, and we're given the hypotenuse, and we're finding the short side. So we've got 30-60-90, given the hypotenuse, finding the short side. So that means we divide it by 2. Okay, so it's going to be 28. Maybe write 28 in right here. so you can remember, or, you know, maybe just write it over here. Hypotenuse is 28. Okay, so 28 divided by 2. So for y, okay, that's going to be 14. So that means our short side will be 14. Okay, and now we've got this right here is 14. So now we're going to look and see the short side, and we're finding the long side, 30, 60, 90. Given the short, finding the long, we're multiplying by radical 3. So 14 times radical 3. Okay. 14 times radical 3. It's 14 radical 3. And that's it. Okay, so that's the first one. I'm going to go ahead and get you started for 2 and 3. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then, but you guys need to actually work it. So, again, we've got a 45, 45, so you want to 45, and then that's a 60, so that means that's 30, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're given, okay, so 39, 39, so that means this is going to be 39, okay? So to get, we're going to have to get z first. Well, it really doesn't matter which one we do first, but I'm just going to go ahead and do this one first because we're already on this triangle. So to get z, you would be given a leg, finding the hypotenuse. Leg, find an hypotenuse, you're going to multiply 39 by this right there, and that's going to be z. Okay. Z. Okay, so remember, anytime you have a leg, you multiply it by root 2. Okay, and then if we're going the other way, if we were given this, we would divide by radical 2 to get a leg. So this time, now we're on a 30, 60, 90. We have the long side. We need to find the short side. Again, we have to work that way. So remember the relationship between the long side and the short side. You multiply the short side by radical 3 to get the long side. So to go in reverse or inverse, we're going to do 39 divided by radical 3. So if you need to use the chart, you're going to go 30, 60. Long to get to the short, you divide by radical 3, or you can multiply by radical 3 over 3, either way. Okay, and the more problems that you do, eventually you're going to memorize, and you're not even going to have to use the chart anymore. So what you would do is you would take 39, either divide it by radical 3, or you can write it. You either divide by radical 3 or 39. And multiply by radical 3 over 3 because you're going to end up getting the same answer. Now, once you get that answer, remember the relationship between the short side and the hypotenuse. This is twice as long as this. So whatever answer you get here for y, you're going to multiply it. It's twice as long, so you would multiply it by 2. So 30, 60, 90, given a leg, or a short leg, find the hypotenuse, multiply by 2. Okay. For number 3, so we got 45, 45, we got 45, 45, and I completely forgot to mark this one here. So what you would do is leg, hypotenuse, short, long, hypotenuse, like that, okay? So over here, 45, 45, and then we got 30, 60, okay? So we're given this value, and this is the hypotenuse of the 45, 45, so we're going in reverse, so we're going to divide by radical 2. Here. The hypotenuse, so divide by radical 2, or you can multiply by radical 2 over 2. Same thing again, just like the last problem. Okay, so you would take 20 and either divide by radical 2, which is 20 radical 2, or 20 times radical 2 over 2. Okay, whatever answer you get, that's going to be z. That's what you're going to put there. And that's also going to be this answer right here. So you would put that right there, and then you're going to have the long side. Okay, and then you're going to have to work this way. And so you would do 30, 60, 90, whatever answer you get there, given the long side to find the short. So you would take that answer and either divide it by radical 3 or multiply it by root 3 over 3. And then that's going to give you the short side. And then the relationship between the short side and the hypotenuse, you just multiply this by 2 to get the hypotenuse. Okay. Over here, again, I keep forgetting to label just because I'm not I don't have to label because I've done these so many times, but leg, hypotenuse, short, long, hypotenuse. I'll make sure to label this one, okay? So we got 45, 45, 30, 60, okay? So we got hypotenuse, leg. This is the smallest angle. It's across from the short, so that's short, long, okay? So we'll start here. This is the hypotenuse. So we're going to divide by radical 2 or multiply by radical 2 over 2. So the hypotenuse is right there. So you would take this, 10 radical 6. I'll kind of help you with this one. 10 radical 6. Let's just go ahead and do times radical 2 over 2. So what's going to happen when you have a problem like this, radical 6 times radical 2, so that becomes 10 radical 12 over 2. Go ahead and simplify this. So that becomes 5 radical 12. Then we've got to think, okay, is there a perfect square that goes into 12 an even number of times? Yes, 4. So when you factor that, it's 4 times 3. So you take the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. Pull it outside, so it becomes 5 times 2. Radical 3 is left over. Last thing I do is, and then this. So then that right there was what we get for this side and this side. So that's z. Okay, so now we would use this. This is 10 radical 3. And if you want to write it right here, just to write it in. Okay, so now we would take this, multiply this by 2 to get x. Remember, you can refer to your chart. This by 2 to get x. And then you'd multiply this by root 3. So this by 2 to get x. By 2 by radical 3 to get y. Okay. And then also wanted you to do number 5. Just the only word problem, just because this one is not too difficult. The other ones I want us to do together in class. So again, you want to read the directions first. Use the information given in the statements below. Solve the missing variable. Round to the nearest tenth. So this time you're going to use a calculator. So it says that we have got a baseball diamond. It's a square with bases set at 90-degree angles. So we're just going to draw a square. It kind of looks like a baseball diamond. Okay. Bases set at 90-degree angles, of course, because it's a square. Bases are 90 feet apart. So what we want to do is we want to know, so that's, in case you don't know what a baseball diamond looks like, home plate, first base, second base, third base, okay? So the question is asking us how far it is from home to second. So we want to know how far from there to there, okay? So as you can see, since these two right here are congruent, this is going to be congruent to that. That's going to be congruent to that. So that's a 45-45 right triangle. And so to get this distance right there, we would just multiply 90 times radical 2. And what you would need to do is take your calculator. You can use your cell phone. I don't know how Androids work, but if you have an iPhone, you would put it on the calculator and turn it landscape horizontally, and the square root button will come up. And you would just put 2 radical, and then multiply that by 90. That's going to be your answer. It rounds to the nearest tenth. Okay?